Good evening to everybody. I welcome you all to the third day of our 10 days International Gender Sensitization Program on Women Empowerment for Societal Transformation. The resource person for this third day of our international program is Professor Ranjani Krishnan, Department of Accounting and Information System, Broad Graduate School of Management, Michigan State University, USA. A short description of the resource person. Professor Ranjani Krishnan is the Ernest W. and Robert W. Schauberg Endowed Chair in Accounting at the Ely Broad Graduate School of Management at Michigan State University, USA. Professor Ranjani's research focus is on issues related to managerial accounting, cost behavior, and performance measurement. Her research also examines health cost, health quality, and health policy. Her research has been published in journals such as Academy of Management Journal, Behavioral Research in Accounting, Contemporary Accounting Research, Decision Sciences, Information Systems Research, Journal of Accounting and Economics, Journal of Accounting Research, Journal of Health Economics, Journal of Management Accounting Research, Management Science, Management Accounting Research, Strategic Management Journal, and the Accounting Review. She is the recipient of the 2015 Best Paper Award of the Academy of Management Annual Meeting, 2013 Best Paper Award of the Journal of Management Accounting Research, 2012 Management Accounting Section's Greatest Impact on Practice Award, 2006 Notable Contribution to the Accounting Research Award from the American Accounting Association, 2005 Notable Contribution to the Management Accounting Literature Award, to 1999 Prize for Research in Accounting Ethics. She has also won MSU's been Distinguished University Professor Award, 9 college and university level teaching awards, and was featured as one of the country's top 10 executive MBA professors in the Poets and Quants periodical. She was the editor of the Accounting Review during 2008 to 2011 and the editor-in-chief of the Journal of Management Accounting Research during 2012 to 2015. She is currently the editor of Accounting, Organization and Society, and also Management Science since 2016. The eminent professor is with us to share her expertise. I kindly ask the participants to be interactive in nature and post their queries in the chat box, as we are supposed to use the rarest opportunity we have got. And I welcome you, ma'am. I also thank you for accepting our invitation. I personally thank you, and also on behalf of the Manonmaniam Sundaranar University, I welcome you for the section. The section is yours, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Revati. It's a real pleasure to be here today. And good evening to all of you. I'm really delighted to be speaking on women empowerment for social transformation. Although I'm an accounting professor, as you can see, and much of my research is in accounting, the notion of women empowerment is something that's very near and dear to me and very important. And I really applaud you for having a conference like this. I think it's a very critical area of policy, and it's really wonderful that you're having this. I'm really delighted also to be talking to people from my mother's hometown, Tirunelveli, and I have spent many times visiting there, and it is a wonderful place, and this is really special to me for that reason. I also want to thank Professor Revati. She has been exceptionally good in terms of, first of all, I thank her for inviting me, and I thank the entire organization committee for inviting me. And Professor Revati, it has been, you have just the whole setup and how smoothly you've done this. It's exceptional. I know that managing such a large program like this one is just not at all easy, and you have done this just exceptionally well, and I really appreciate how you're doing this. So what I'm going to do is I have a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to share my screen now, and please feel free to ask questions at any time. I mean, it's like, just a lecture mode is sometimes a little boring for you to listen. So feel free at any point to just go ahead and ask me questions. So I'm going to begin sharing my screen, and I'm going to just go to my application window. Okay, my entire screen. Okay, let me open my PowerPoint. Okay, I opened it, and let me now see if I can now share this. Okay, here, this. Okay, share. Okay, so are you able to see my screen now? Okay, hopefully, you are. And so I'm just going to start this slideshow from the beginning. Um, okay, so again, it's the topic is revitalizing and facilitating career success of women, role of men and women. And I wanted to begin with what I think is a very depressing statistic. Okay, so there is a very disturbing trend that has been going on for the last few decades in India, which is that the workforce participation of women has been declining in the past 2 decades compared to other middle income countries. And I point to you here, this blue, thick blue line, which is India. And you can see that from 1990, when the percentage of women in the workforce was 30%, in 2019, as per the Indian Census Bureau, the workforce participation of Indian women has declined to 20%. I'm also putting for you the workforce participation of women in other countries. So you can see from this green line that in Pakistan, the workforce participation has been increasing. So in 1990, they were half the rate of what it was in India, and now they are higher than the rate that was in India. Same thing is true in Bangladesh. You can see in South Africa, it's 50%. In Kenya, the workforce participation of women is 75%. In Vietnam, it's around the same. And in Nepal, the workforce participation of women is about 85%. So this is kind of like a very disturbing trend. And this is important because when we are talking about women empowerment, the first empowerment comes from financial independence. My mother, who I said is born and raised in Tirunelveli, from the time my sister and I, we had two girls in our house, and so two sisters, and that's it, has been stressing the importance of financial independence. At a time when my sister and I were born in the 60s, it wasn't very common for girls to be financially independent. And my mother would tell us all the time that it's really important for you to be financially independent. So that was common, was what was my impression. But now when I look at this, women of my age are, nearing retirement. So this is meaning that younger women, are not participating in the workforce. And so when you do not have financial independence, then everything stops there. That's it. Without economic independence, without economic power, no other form of power is going to come easily. So that is the first step. And if you look at the workforce participation, for example, by gender in the US, again, you will see it's about 80%. But what is kind of like, disturbing is that in 2019, participation of women in the workforce in India was less than 50% of the participation of women in the US in 1960. So in 1960, my mother was a teenager, and so this is talking about workforce participation of women who are older than my mother's age, and I myself am approaching retirement. So this is, we're talking about my grandmother's time now. So even during that time, workforce participation was higher than what it is among younger women now in India. So I've been observing and noticing this trend, and so then I started looking at some research that's done in this area. So the question is, what are women in India doing, right? Obviously, being of an Indian woman, I know that women in India are very active, they have very high energy, and they're not going to be sitting and doing nothing. So then in a lot of research shows that in surveys and other data collection, a lot of women say that their main activity is attending to domestic duties in the house. And for example, 41%, 46% of all urban females in India said their main job was attending to domestic duties in the house. And this is interesting because, it is clearly possible that in India there is much more work around the house than there is in other countries. But at the same time, if that is the case, then that is really a social issue, which is the topic of the whole conference, this conference, that social transformation. That if this is the case, then we really need to have some social transformation as to why Indian women are being held back by all these responsibilities at home, that in other countries women are not being held back. So we all know there is domestic help. So at least for women of middle class or above, there are people who can come help you with some of the work at home, which is not the case, as you know, in many Western countries, where it is literally practically totally impossible to get a maid or a cook or a driver or anything. So that is there. Family size. So if you look at the number of children that an average woman has, then the US, Bangladesh, and India have about the same birth rate, which is 2. And Nepal and Kenya, which have much higher workforce participation, have higher birth rates than India. So the average there, family size, the number of children born per woman is about 3. There has been a lot of technological innovations that help in the domestic work. There has been income growth. There is opportunities for career. And there is a steady increase in the number of women pursuing college and professional degrees. I looked at the website of the university, and I was really impressed to see how many women are coming to college. In fact, the number of engineers and medical doctors and law school graduates produced in India is the highest that is there for any country in the world. So there are more electrical engineers, more civil engineers, more computer engineers produced in India who are female than any other country in the world. There are more medical doctors right now. If you look at the medical colleges, not only in Tamil Nadu, of course, Tamil Nadu is a leading in this state in this area, but other states as well. About 60% of graduating medical school students graduating with an MBBS degree are women. Same thing is true with law school. So the point is that it's not that women are not going for education; they are going for education. So, so let's talk about this a little more systematically, right? From a research or from a scientific perspective. What are the reasons for such low workforce participation? And I'm going to divide these into 3 categories of reasons. One is what I call structural reasons. The other is what we call social reasons. And the third is what we call personal reasons. And this is what research has classified the reasons for low workforce participation in India. So let us first take the structural reasons. One structural reason for such low workforce participation is simply lack of career opportunities. Many years ago, when my sister and I were in college, when there were some, for example, my sister, I remember when she had one of her first interviews with a chemical company in India. She went inside the interview room. There were a panel of four men sitting, and because this was in Delhi, they did not know South Indian names really well, and her name is Hema Krishnan, and they put it down as H Krishnan. And so when she came in, one of the men turned to the other and said, "Hey, this is a girl who's come for an interview, not a boy." And the other man said, "Well, anyway, she's come in, so let us at least finish the interview." Okay, so it still continues to be the case that when I joined the National Dairy Development Board after my master's, it was my boss outright told me I was against hiring you because the problem with hiring women is that you get married and have children and leave. I was only 21 years old. Okay, so that the marriage and children at that time was not the main thing in my mind at that time. And so lack of career opportunities. So we have had historic discrimination in India. Even now there is historic discrimination. So my husband, for example, who is an alumni of National Institute of Technology Suratkal, which those days used to be called a regional engineering college in Karnataka, he went for the reunion after many years after the graduation. He went last year, and the director of that one of his classmates, who is actually the dean of a big university in the US, said how during my husband's time there were literally no women in engineering, and now there are about 15% of the women in National Institute of Technology are women. He said, "I don't know why there's so many women. They just take up the place that could have gone to a man instead." So historic discrimination exists in hiring, in promotion, in salaries. Women earn 70% that men earn for the same job. It is really hard to be motivated to go to work every day when you see a man sitting next to you who is doing the same job as you, but who's going to be paid 30% more than you. It's really hard to get very motivated to show up daily and to put high effort when you have this discrimination. And then there is also safety that I have a daughter who's 24, and just travel to work is just not safe in many areas. And the governments, although I will say Tamil Nadu government has been much better than other states in India, have not taken any responsibility for the safety of women. Let's take Karnataka, where my husband is from. So there was a very terrible case a couple years ago where a young woman going for work was basically molested by a bunch of men. And at that time the chief minister of Karnataka said, "Well, this is what happens when women go to work. There are some safety issues and we can't take care of these." So basically structural reasons, just rampant lack of just any kind of structural facilitation to support women going to work. The next is social reasons. There is a stigma against working women, especially once they get married. The feeling is, oh, if you're going to work, you're neglecting your family and you shouldn't be doing that. The caste system is a big reason also, which is that again discrimination against the lower caste people. Even today it happens daily. And just lower status of women in overall the society in general. So let me put for you another very disturbing statistic, which is the sex ratio at birth. Now you all know that from a scientific reason, if you look at the babies from 0 to 5 years of age, the nature has arranged it such that there is, for every one boy there is one girl. This is the law of nature. You know that, and there is a reason for this law of nature. And so India is one of the countries that has, along with China, that has always tampered with this law of nature. And so there is just through many reasons. One, of course, is selective abortion of girl fetuses, and then just terrible neglect in the first 5 years of health and other things. It ends up with much fewer girls being left for each boy. So here is, for example, the gender ratio in India from the US Census. You can see that in 1901, there were 970 girls for every 1,000 boys. Now remember, there should be 1,000 is to 1,000. So even in 1901, there were fewer girls. But look at the trend. And it is very hard to blame the British for everything. Like many of you, I also feel that India being a colonial, kind of like a subject was not a good thing. But the British left a very long time ago. And since then, the decline has been very, very steady. There's a rampant preference for boys. One of the reasons my sister, when she was working, actually decided to pursue higher studies was that one of her colleagues, took some time off, and when she came back from vacation, my sister said, "Hey, what happened? Where did you go?" She said, "Oh, I was pregnant and I found out it was a girl, so I just ended up having an abortion." People are very open about this. I mean, you would think that they would be very, I don't know, they wouldn't say or admit to doing these things, but they do, which tells you that socially, for some reason, as a society, we are completely okay when someone tells us this. We don't ask, what are you talking about? How could you do such a thing? Okay, how could you? I mean, first of all, the woman was an observant Hindu. Isn't this completely against your religion? How could you be okay with this? And you yourself are a woman. How can you be okay with this, right? So that's a social reason. And by the way, every state has this problem. Tamil Nadu and Karnataka and Kerala are little better than other states compared to this. Some states are much, much worse. As you can see, these states, Haryana, Uttarakhand, Delhi, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, and Maharashtra, these are worse than the rest of the country. But Tamil Nadu and Karnataka are also kind of like not quite as good, right? So, and lots of like other, it's somehow something that makes me feel really bad, because everybody knows about this. Every country talks about these missing girls in India. 63 million women are missing in India. That is 630 lakh women have been eliminated one way or the other. There is no way to put it. Now, all of you think about this, right? As a woman, when I look at something like this, or my daughter looks at something like this, I don't feel very empowered at all. I feel, in fact, that I should call my mother and thank her for allowing me to live. That too, I was the second daughter, only two kids. Second one also daughter. That's what everyone used to say when I was growing up. Oh, your second one is also daughter. First also girl, second also girl. No problem. And all types of strangers will tell my mother, you should have a third child. Maybe this time you'll have a boy. How do you expect me and my sister to develop a lot of career aspirations and be bold and be ambitious if daily we are being told that it was a shame that we were born as girls, and that my mother should probably not have had us, right? So that is a social reason. Another social reason is this extreme emphasis on early marriage. So this is some countries I've put for you in terms of age at marriage. You can see that in every country it has been increasing in the last 40, 50 years. You can see that in Norway, England, and and United States, etc., it is more than 30 years. Even in South Africa, which has been doing very well on many of these statistics, it's now age of first marriage is more than 30. But you can see again that India is right here, like 2021 is age at marriage, and Bangladesh is probably about the same level as India. So this extreme emphasis on early marriage is one more thing that keeps women back. It's a social reason. So now I have a challenge for everybody here, all the women and all the men in the audience. Let's put an end to this, right? Enough of these excuses. In all countries with high workforce participation, women have children, women have in-laws, the women there cook, and the women there clean, and the women look after the house, okay? And I will come back to what my mother said, and my grandmother used to say this too, that economic self-sufficiency, financial independence is the first step for women to make a progress in a society. So what is so different about Indian women, right? So the point here is, and this is important for the younger career women here, and the younger students that are here, somehow we are brainwashed that we cannot be successful. Right from an early age, we are brainwashed that, if we do well in high school, again, I take my sister's example because she was older than me. She was like a huge inspiration for me. She always used to do well in high school, but it always used to be that the boy who does very well is just brilliant, and the girl who does very well just works hard. So they are already taking away the fact that you are intelligent. They will, because a girl, oh, if a girl does well in 12th standard, it's because she studies so much. If a boy does well, it's because he's just intelligent. That's not true. If a boy does well and the girl does well, both of them are intelligent and both of them study hard. Okay, so we are brainwashed that we are not good enough somehow, that we cannot be successful. We have to stop that right now. And there are these sayings that we have in every language in India. Educating a daughter is like watering your neighbor's garden. It is the most stupid saying that I've ever heard, right? Why is that the case? Why is your daughter, is she somehow not your child, right? Last rites have to be done by boys, okay? So that is why. So if you talk to people, they'll say, yeah, yeah, I know that girls are important in our house, but the last rites, the chirags and the varis and the kuldeep, all these, enough. My sister and I, 3 years ago, and my father passed away, we did the last rites for our father. It was a very a very sober moment. We felt, and my father had left instructions that we should do that. He did not want his nephew or somebody else, some male, to do the last rites. He said, "You both should do," and we did. And it was really a very tender, beautiful moment for us, to do that. And so I was also raised as a Hindu. My sister was also raised as a Hindu. So what, right? I mean, it is, I think that we have to stop all these social reasons. The girl child is a burden, we are told. And then, of course, the tremendous overspending on weddings, which is why when a girl is born itself, they're thinking 25 years later we have to do her wedding, and so as a result we are going to not whatever, not have her, or not take care of her. Well, and then when you tell people, why do you need this wedding, they will say, I want simple wedding for my daughter, but my neighbor expects one, my relatives expect. Nobody expects a big wedding. Everybody are, you decide what is good for your daughter decides what is good for her, and that is all that matters. These neighbors and relatives are not going to be there at a time of need. So you should do what you think is correct and stop this social kind of brainwashing. So for the young women in the audience, I have like this challenge for you. Just defy this myth that women cannot be successful. Be courageous, be curious, set high goals. That is really important. Work hard, make personal sacrifices. Everybody makes personal sacrifices, men and women. And it is important to say that I'm making this sacrifice so that I can be financially independent, so that I can contribute to women and to society in general. And get out of your comfort zone. Despite being raised by an amazing mother from Tirunelveli, as I said, even today in my mid 50s, when I have to give a lecture to a big audience, and there are a lot of men sitting, especially, I'm very nervous, very nervous. And I could just say, "Oh, okay, I don't want to do this." That is not true. We have to get out of our comfort zone. Is it uncomfortable to go through that extreme nervousness before your talk? Yes, but that is important in order to be successful. Get out of your comfort zone and identify the roadblocks. I want all of you young women in the audience to identify what is the thing that is you think is going to hold you back. Is it fear of success? Because some women are not comfortable with being successful. Is it fear of failure? Everybody has failures. For every, my father used to say, for every one success, there are 100 failures. Is it lack of persistence? Then don't don't give up. Is a desire for popularity. This is very important, right? Luckily for me, my in-laws were really nice people, but at the same time, home bahu who's at home and who's taking care of the family somehow is more popular than a daughter-in-law who's going to work. That's okay. At the same time, the daughter-in-law is going to work, is contributing financially to the family. That is good. So this desire for popularity, get rid of it. It doesn't matter. Even if your own parents are against it, doesn't matter. And lack of mission, that is a huge roadblock. I had this roadblock for a long time. And so I have this request of you young women to make a mission statement for yourself. Ask yourself, what is your mission? Just like organizations have a mission statement, companies have a mission statement, you have a mission statement. What is your mission? Ask yourself. And let me show you some amazing women now who have had a simple mission statement that we want to be the best in our field. So here is the Mars orbiter mission, what is known as the MOM mission. This was the space probe that was launched by ISRO in 2013 that has been orbiting Mars since 2014. You can see from this picture that all majority of the people in this Mars orbiter mission were women. You can see that picture here. You can see women of all ages, and that is why this was known as the MOM mission. Arunima Sinha was the first female amputee to climb Mount Everest. Here she is going up on Mount Everest with one leg missing. Mary Kom was the only woman boxer who has won a medal in each of the 6 world championships and in Asian Games in 2014. Fly high like these women. Indra Nui was the CEO of Pepsi Cola for a very long time. She was ranked as one of the top 10 most powerful women in the world. Fly high like her. She also started, like many of you young women did, in Tamil Nadu. Begum Rokeya, she was a feminist, a educator, a political activist, and not just in India, but the whole of South Asia. She was a pioneer of women's liberation in the early 1900s. Sarojini Naidu, freedom fighter. She said, we want deeper sincerity of motive, a greater courage in speech, and earnestness in action. Fly high like her. M.S. Subbalakshmi, again from our state, from Tamil Nadu, first musician ever in the history of India to have been awarded the Bharat Ratna. Fly high like M.S. Subbalakshmi. Okay, she came from very humble background and she became the greatest musician that the world has ever known. Fly really high like Kalpana Chawla. And we all know that her life was tragically cut short. But whenever anyone talks about space missions anywhere in the world, the first name that's mentioned is Kalpana Chawla. And of course, since yesterday, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, whose mother is from Tamil Nadu, the first Asian American woman who's going to be a presidential candidate in the United States. Look at this picture. It looks like any one of our family pictures. So all these women have done this, and you can also do this. So you might say, how can I achieve these career goals? You have to manage your work, you have to manage your life, and you have to remember that you have to define what is success. What does success mean to you? And it doesn't have to be the same that the way it's defined by men. For example, men usually define achievement like promotion and pay and so on as important for their success. And women generally, if you can notice from this financial success outside, financial success is not as important as rewarding relationships or happiness or enjoyment. That is really important. Doesn't matter. Define that. You say my success, I define my success as a life of meaning with no regret, as a rewarding relationship, as enjoying my work. Define what is success, and then you find a match. Look for organizations that welcome you as individuals, that organizations that recognize that you have a distinctive style and that you are a different person. Organizations where you have a boss who's receptive to you as a woman, where they're flexible to the fact that men and women work little differently. Men are little more competitive, women are more collaborative and cooperative, and that's good. That's fine. You need both types in any organization. Where you have support from managers, you have a mentor. If you are in an organization and you're not getting anyone who's taking an interest in your career, that is not a match. Where your measurement is measured objectively, if they keep saying, oh, as a woman you're doing okay, that is not a match for you. Where they say, oh, you're doing well but you could do better, that's a match. Respectful and supportive colleagues, that is really important, because daily you're going to be sitting with them for 8-10 hours. Next, you cultivate some traits: communication, listening, speaking, empathy. Build relationships with co-workers and supervisors and subordinates. Develop skills like problem solving. Be assertive, be persuasive, take risks. Have emotional intelligence, which means be self-aware. Manage your emotions. It's okay to be emotional. People might say you should never cry at work. That is all old now. It is, if you feel like crying, it's okay to cry at work. uh, that's fine. Women do things differently than men. Women also have very high empathy, and that is good. Use it. Listen to people. Be sensitive to them, and that is a huge skill that you have that can help you succeed. Have good social skills and constantly update your knowledge. There is now so many online classes available. Universities have part-time programs. When you're working, take classes. Be ahead of the technology curve. um, and then another aspect: work smartly. Set high goals. Keep increasing your own target. If there is a failure, accept it and move on. As I said, find mentors. Mentors are people who care about your success. Throughout my life, other than my father, mother, and my sister, I have had great mentors who were men. I have had bosses, male bosses, who took great interest in my career. My husband has been there; he has been taken a great interest in my career. And everywhere where I had a male boss, they have, I have had people who have cared about my success. Teamwork. Be a role model who inspires your subordinates. Invest in coaching your team members. When you have a benefit, when you have benefited, give it back. Um, think outside the box. Look beyond your career. Build your own brand. Think of yourself as, like a brand. Lakme, or Ponds or Brook Bond. How do those companies market their brand? Think of yourself. So Ranjani is a brand. How can I improve my brand value now? So build your brand, and stop feeling like what we call an imposter. This is a huge problem that young women have. My daughter goes through this all the time in her job. She always feels like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough. This literally every young woman goes through. Recognize it and stop feeling it. Ask for help from your family. If you look at this picture, it tells you what men say they get support from their family and what women say. You can see that men feel that they get a lot of emotional support from their family. They get a lot of help with raising their children, etc. And they have spouses who are very flexible. They even take career or business advice from their spouses. So women should also do that. Ask for help. It's okay to ask for help. And finally, I want to just finish with a couple of inspiring quotes. Michelle Obama. If there is one thing I've learned in my life, it's the power of using your own voice. And last, if you don't see a clear path for what you want, sometimes you have to make it yourself, Mindy Kaling said. So that is my presentation. And now I am open to questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Such an amazing, inspirational talk you have delivered. And as you have rightly said, financial independence, economic freedom, and emotional intelligence are vital for women. And girl children are no more a burden, but they are the gifts of Almighty.
Yes.
And you have given several tips for the empowerment of women. Women, they have to work hard, be courageous, make their personal sacrifices, get out of their comfort zone. And everybody, we have failures, but we must be courageous enough to face the failures. And everyone must have a mission statement to fly high. And there are some queries in the chat box, ma'am.
Yes.
I'll see to it, ma'am.
Yes.
And one question is the present education system sufficient to make women empowerment?
Uh, I think that's a very good question. And my feeling is that from a academic perspective, like the content of the courses and the classes and what is taught, I think it is excellent. So, for example, I got my accounting degree from India, from Ethiraj College in Chennai, and I believe that the foundation I got there was, I honestly, the best foundation. I cannot imagine getting better education in financial accounting and cost accounting. And I'm very deeply grateful to all my professors in Ethiraj College. All of them were women, obviously. It was a women's college. And the foundation they laid for me to date, after I graduated from Ethiraj College in 1985. To date, when I'm teaching in class, I remember Professor Ponmudi and Professor Banumati and how they used to teach. So that is exceptionally good. The academic content of the education. In fact, even going back to high school, my 12th grade mathematics teacher, the foundation that was laid there helped me even in the PhD program. So I think academically it's really really good. I do think that socially there are some handicaps. I think that, for example, for girls, sometimes the type of language that is presented in schools and colleges is as if for women, career is not that important. That is kind of, it is as if it is like it is optional, that men have to go to work to support their family, but for women it is optional. That kind of social messaging that is sometimes given in colleges and college campuses, that is not very good. Because I notice even in top engineering universities, let's say, the placement, success, initial placement success of boys and girls is equal, but after 3 4 years girls have fallen off, in the sense that the boys are now making more money and they are in higher positions, and this is in spite of girls actually performing better academically when they are in the program. So I think that, yes, I think the education system in India is phenomenally good. I do not think that any major change needs to be made to that. What needs to change is the dialogue that is spoken in the colleges. And I know that my professors were very important to me, and all, because I was very lucky that I went to a girls' college. I honestly think if I'd gone to a co-ed college, I may not have been this successful, because there were only girls with me and only female professors. Everybody was very ambitious, and there was nothing holding us back. I didn't have to be popular with the boys or anything like that, right? So I didn't have to underperform just so that I look better from a social perspective. Nothing of that sort. So I think that that's a great question, and I do think that what can we do, what some tangible things we can do. I think if the colleges and universities have women's groups and forums and society for women, where they can meet and they can discuss these issues. Maybe it's important for female students to have a mentor identified very early when they come in the program itself, find a mentor, an academic mentor with whom they can once a semester or something, they can go and talk to them for 1 or 2 hours, and then the mentor can tell them how they're doing and what all future opportunities they can take up. So, some mentorship, maybe some informal or formal societies, and clubs that they can join, like academic clubs, where faculty are very active in making sure that these young women are identifying the opportunities, and they are they feel energetic to pursue these opportunities. So I think that is something that might be a good addition.
The next question is, women form a large part of the unskilled labor force of the country, but their work is not accounted for as it is not monetized. Doesn't that trivialize the work that is being done by the women?
Thank you for the question. This is again a very good question. And when I was looking at the statistics for this, I was looking for specifically this. I went to this Institute of Rural Management, Anand, IRMA, it's called, in Anand, Gujarat, for my master's program. And I have many classmates who are working in NGOs. And some of them are specifically working in female NGOs, like Seva in Ahmedabad, Self-Employed Women's Associations. One of my classmates, Rajiv Khandelwal, has an organization that specifically deals with marginalized and labor. And then I have some others that are working with tribal organizations and tribal women. I myself worked in an NGO for a few years after I graduated in Rajasthan, with a company, with an NGO called Seva Mandir in Udaipur, where my job was basically to do microfinance in some of the very poor tribal villages in Rajasthan, and also I did women's health. So I'm very aware of this unorganized labor force, so to say, and the fact that when I showed the statistics of 15% workforce participation, that is not could probably not be accounted for. But then, when I was working, Mohammed Yunus of Grameen Bank in Bangladesh had visited one of the organizations, and I was listening to his talk. The fact is that in other countries as well, in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, in Kenya, in South Africa, there are equal number of women in the unorganized workforce. And actually, if I may, because we have such a wonderful statistical institute, the Indian Statistical Institute and other things, our Census Bureau, Indian Census Bureau measurement is actually among the best in the world. So the Census Bureau does a great trouble to make sure that all the women who are doing any kind of work are accounted for. So after all this, when in spite of that, the statistics are showing, see, if I had shown you India versus US or India versus Germany, I agree that you can say there is undercounting of women working in India. But I showed you India versus Pakistan, India versus Bangladesh, India versus Nepal, India versus Kenya. All these countries have a similar social structure and a similar rural urban work livelihood kind of breakup. So if all, all these are showing that India is performing the worst, then it means that there is some issue here. Whether it's undercounting, which I don't think can be the reason, or I have other statistics. I didn't want to keep on showing too much statistics, but the workforce gap between India and some of these middle income countries I mentioned is highest in urban areas. In rural areas, it's actually better. In urban areas, this balance is worse. And paradoxically, in most other countries, as financial status of the family improves, so as you go from being very poor to middle class, etc., the workforce participation of women steadily increases. India is one of the few countries where it trends opposite. So as families become more affluent, workforce participation of women in the families comes down. In most other countries, even as I said, Pakistan and Bangladesh, I give as examples because they are neighbors. It is the opposite. So this is why I feel that there may be, as the question asks, a very good question, a measurement problem. I'm not dismissing that that problem may not be there. I'm sure it is there, but there is also a social problem with respect to numbers. And when you say, not respected, let's take two types of jobs. Okay, one is women who are in rural women, like, you are in the rice belt, for example, in Tirunelveli, and you know that rice harvesting is done primarily by women. And so are all those women who are doing the rice harvesting counted in these statistics? Probably many of them are undercounted, but as I said, that is true for other countries also. It's not going to be worse in India, the undercounting. So that job should not be trivialized. I completely agree that if they are not in the Census Bureau statistics saying, oh, these women are not working because they are not there, that is very bad. We shouldn't do that. But if you're talking about women doing only household duties, and it's a middle class woman, and you say, oh, she's doing so much work in the house, you're not counting that. I'm very sorry. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I will not buy that argument easily, because in other countries also women take up their share of housework. It is not very different in India. So in other countries also that housework may not be respected, but in those countries 85% of women, including in Nepal and Kenya, still have financial independence. See, this is not about disrespecting women. Do I think that making besan laddus, my mother-in-law used to make really nice laddus, and I miss that now that she's gone. Am I saying that is not important? I think that the what she provided for her children was amazing. Okay, so I think that is exceptionally her effort was important for her children and grandchildren. So I'm not trivializing that at all. What I'm saying is, if we want people like her or her granddaughters to be respected, to be provided what we call a seat at the table with men, they have to have financial independence. They have to have a salary. They have to have a bank account, and they have to have money coming into that bank account. Then, something very strange, automatically everything will be respected more for them. Otherwise, I think even the chores that they do in the house will not be respected. The minute they start having that, you know they can leave anytime because they have financial independence, everything that they do suddenly becomes more valuable. So I'm saying this for the women, that in order to get more respect, it is important to be able to stand on your own financially. I'm not demeaning the work that's done. I think some of the most important things I did in my life was raising my two children. That if you ask me what is most important job I did, I think my kids and the time I spent with them was definitely, honestly, more important than writing accounting papers. So I will be the last one to uh, to disrespect that type of activity. But I'm saying that if we want to put a stop to girl babies being killed and girl babies being neglected, and dowry still going on informally, then women have to take a position and men have to support them.
Thank you, ma'am. The next question is, to get out of the comfortable zone itself is the problem for many women. How to do away with this?
So something, let me say something. Being a successful woman, career woman, is a very lonely thing. I will be very upfront. If you ask my sister or me or my daughter, yes, we all have families and friends, and my sister and I have children, and we have our mother, and we have everything. Um, but it is lonely, because I do not think that women who are in the workforce are quote unquote as popular as women who are not in the workforce, because it is very easy to say I slaved away all my life for my two children, and because of that I did not pursue career opportunities, and the children feel very guilty, and that guilt tripping you can do and feel really good. I can't do that with my children. I can't say, because I slaved away for you and made chapatis and idlis for you, because of that I was not successful in my career. My children can actually say that, oh, you spent a lot of time working, you didn't spend with us. But it's okay. I think that they respect what I did. And if they say that, I will never say anything back to them that is disrespectful to them, because children are like gifts that are with us for a short while and we should enjoy them. But part of me will say, because I went to work, my children had a better life. Frankly, Dr. Revati, frankly, I think my children had a better life because there were two incomes. They were able to get more things than they would have got if there was only one income. And I think that, their life was a little better because of that. Was it little worse because some days when they came back from school, there was no one at home and they were in the house alone for some time? Yeah, probably. My mother was always there when I came back from school, and that was very nice. And perhaps they did not have that. But at the same time, when we were growing up, balancing the budget was a very big deal for our family. Very middle class, lower middle class family. It was very hard to balance the budget, right? My oldest sister's clothes used to come to my sister and used to come to me. And there are many times when we all wished we had nice, things. And I think that, there's some gain and some loss. So getting out of the comfort zone is a mental comfort zone. I'm not talking about a physical comfort zone. I'm not saying that, you should wake up early and, that you should sleep less or anything. That is not, and you should definitely take good care of your health, by the way. For women, it's very important. You should eat a nutritious diet. You should have good rest. You should, get good exercise and take care of your health. That is very important. That is number one. So I'm not saying that you should neglect any of your emotional or physical health. What I mean by comfort zone is people will always talk. That is the worst comfort zone for us. The trap that I had when I was young was that I want to be popular daughter, I want to be a popular daughter-in-law, I want to be a popular wife, whatever. I want my husband's brothers to like me, I want my society to like me. And oh my god, you think I have not received these comments when my children were young? Oh, well, nobody's at home, so poor thing. Oh, your child is going to daycare. Mother is the best person to take care of the child. Even family members have said this, right? It is not because they were disrespectful, it is the only thing they knew what to say. And it is so lonely at that time. How many days I have gone for a walk and cried alone? How many days I've sat alone in my room for 15-20 minutes and just cried? I cannot tell you, when I was young, especially during pregnancy, during childbirth, hormonal fluctuations, etc. And I have wondered whether it was worth it. But now, in my mid 50s, I think it was okay. And now the same people who I feel 30 years ago did not respect me in both sides of the family, now I feel they are all like, oh, okay, my daughters need to be financially independent. And they come and say, can we ask, get advice from you? Not that I'm not saying it's revenge or anything, but what I'm saying is even now, the comfort zone. I mean, if I have a cousin who stayed at home to raise her children, and there is a family gathering, she will always be given more prestige than I will be. That is the comfort zone. But I have made peace with it. So it is always lonelier to be a career woman. It is always lonely. And that is the comfort zone. You have to make peace with that.
Yes, ma'am. We do make a lot of personal sacrifices to achieve our career prospects. We do feel at times guilty. We don't give importance to our children and to our household duties if we want to excel in our career. That is the way you'll have to balance our career and our family life. Ma'am, another question is, what is the difference between the Indian and American women?
Uh, Okay, so difference between Indian and American women. Um, So, as I said, there are the three issues we can look at, right? Structural, kind of institutional, as a structural, social, and personal. We can look at all these three. From a structural reason, I think discrimination against women in employment and in promotion and in pay, it is there here also. But they will not tell in your face, at least. So when as I said, when my sister went for an interview, they said, oh, you are a girl, and I didn't know that, but anyway we'll interview you. They cannot say that upfront. Okay, so that is good. At least you're not hearing things like that, and that makes it little easier then. So from a structural perspective, and if your employer is not promoting you, you can take a legal case against them. The legal system is little faster here. So that is a structural issue. From a social issue, there is absolutely no preference for a boy child. I will tell you that for a fact. For 30 years, I have observed, I've seen pregnant women, I've talked to them, the men, the fathers I've talked to, and actually speaking, most often when I say, hey, someone asks, I mean, I will not ask, it's a very personal question. If, let's say, somebody asks, oh, you're pregnant, do you want a boy or a girl? Most 90% of the cases, they'll say, we don't care, either is okay. And only time they say, oh, they say something is, they'll say, I want a girl. They'll literally say that. Men also, it'll be really nice to have a daughter. Okay, and women will also say that. They say that it'll be nice to have a daughter because I'll have company or something like that. That is a very big change from a social perspective. Very big change, because I mean, so my daughter, when she was born, right? um, it is so strange. So I know that people thought, oh, I also have one sister only, right? Two girls, one more girl. Nobody said it in my face. Nobody said it in my face, but I know that they were thinking that, right? So at the same time, my husband's colleague had a girl, and I could see everybody was like, oh, we didn't want to say, but actually we really preferred a girl, etc. So that's a social reason. We got to stop this boy preference. And it's not men's fault, it is not women's fault, it is just societal fault, it's a collective fault. But I feel every man and every woman should take a position to stop this narrative that girls are inferior to boys. We should stop that whole thing. So that is the social reason. And the personal reason, I think that this somehow, in the US, I feel women are okay being alone. A lot of women live on their own. They are either not married, or they're divorced, or they're widowed. They live in their own houses. They may have a pet like a dog or something. Women living alone is very much okay here. Will they, are they lonely? Probably they're lonely. Who will not be lonely living alone? But they're okay with that. They're not afraid. By afraid, I mean not safety. That is there as well. Because even now, my niece, when she was looking for a housing in Bombay, I mean in Mumbai, can you imagine? Um, she was unable to find an apartment because people do not rent an apartment to single girls. Finally, she found one with great difficulty after 1 month of looking. That kind of structural discrimination will not happen here. When my daughter took up a job in Columbus, she found an apartment in 15 minutes. And that too, not just one, but many people. People actually prefer single girls in the US because they keep the house nicely and they're quiet and they're nice, well behaved. So those also have to stop. That, some uncle will or aunt will come and say, oh, it is not safe to have a single woman here. So those structural, so women, what is different? Yes, I mean, I think you should be okay being on your own. That is empowerment. That I like people, I want to be with people. But if at the end of the day those people are not supportive, or they are not, they are pulling me down, then I'm okay being alone. That's okay. That's the difference in the mindset.
Yes, ma'am. There is another question. Will the property right of daughters help in women empowerment?
Oh, that's a very good question again. because India has actually had very good property rights for women. Do you know that it was easier for women to vote in India in 1950s than for women to vote in the US? Most people do not know this, but it was easier during independence. Dr. Ambedkar, who wrote the Constitution, it was clear that women were equal citizens and every woman had the right to vote. Voter participation in India among women is the highest that there is in any country in the world, which is amazing. It's a democracy, and voter participation of women is very high. Every country, US, right now in November there'll be elections. There are articles written about, oh, look at India, because US and India are the largest democracies. So they always compare with India, and they say, why in the US so women don't vote in that proportion that they vote in India? They will always write like this in big newspapers. So it's amazing how high voter participation among women in India is. It makes me feel really happy, by the way. So property rights in India, right from 1947, from the constitutional property rights, women are supposed to have property rights. They can own assets. If let's say that there is a boy and a girl and the parents die with property without leaving a will, then it is supposed to be equally divided among the boy and the girl. That is the way it is. You can take it to court, and that's what the court will rule. It is equal division of. So legally, it is fantastic. I cannot tell you how wonderful the legal system in India is with respect to property rights. But socially, I just don't know if it is there. I do think that boys get more property in India, especially land, house, etc. I think boys get more of that. I don't know if it is formally they are given the title to the house or if it is informally they live there. But I do think that that is a important question that's asked, that very important for empowerment of women. So let's say that you are a woman and your grandpa, your parents died and house is left, and your brother says it's my house. That's where the popularity comes again. No, it's both. You have to ask for your rights, right? Property rights are there legally, they are there, but you have to ask for them sometimes, and that's the difference.
Professor Dhanalakshmi, she has raised a question. Some parents are good in their social work, but they are lacking in caretaking of their children. Already, Professor has given a question that has given the answer that women are supposed to make some personal sacrifices to ensure financial comfortability of their children.
Right. So I think taking care of children is a joint responsibility of men and women, right? So why is, I mean, if when a child is not being taken care of or neglected, I don't know why it is said that the mother has neglected. There is a father also, no? So the father also has responsibility to take care of the child. And So I think it's a joint responsibility. So I think that if a child is being neglected, then I think the mother and father both are responsible. And for women to be successful, it's really, really important to have a mother who is supportive, but it is equally important to have a father who's supportive. My father was amazing. If my father had not supported my sister and my careers, I don't think that it would have happened. And my mother, of course, was also amazing. So the thing is that, but if my father had put his foot down, right? If my father had said, no, my girls will not go to work, my girls, will not pursue career, etc., then it would have been very hard for my mother to fight with him. I don't think she could have done that. I don't think she could have said, I don't agree with you. I'm going to take the girls and I'm going to leave you. That it is very, women can't do that. It is very hard even now for women to do that, leave alone in my mother's generation. So I think I feel that a successful daughter, a daughter doing well, it is especially important that fathers take that role of mentoring their daughters. Um, that because women on mothers are important, but it is very hard for a woman to fight her husband and her husband's family in order to see her daughter be successful. Men have to be equal partners. So, if a child is being neglected, I think both the father and the mother are responsible for that. And that then both of them have to sit down and talk and say, why is our child being neglected?
Yes, ma'am. Physical security of girls is also becoming a hindrance for achieving higher education.
Yeah.
What may be your suggestions to overcome it?
You know, I just find this is one topic that I'm very disturbed about. Okay, in the sense that when I was growing up, right, this first 6 years of my life I was in Ahmedabad. The next 10, 11 years I was in Delhi, New Delhi, which is where I did from second grade to 12th grade. Then I did my college in Chennai. Then I did my masters in Gujarat again in Anand, Gujarat. Then I worked in Rajasthan, and then I worked again in Gujarat. Then I came to Pittsburgh to do my PhD. Then I'm now in East Lansing, Michigan. So I have lived in many cities in India and then of course Coimbatore was what my parents were, and I used to visit them in Coimbatore. So lot of cities, right? And when I was growing up, whether it was Ahmedabad or Delhi or Chennai, when I used to take the bus to go to college, we used to live in KK Nagar in Chennai, and it was pretty far to go to Etiraj College. I never felt unsafe. I was this young girl taking a bus and going, and I never felt that unsafe, right? As I said, I would be waiting in the bus stop and I would catch a bus and I would walk from the bus stop. Even if it was, and it was usually daytime, but if there was some program or something, like a cultural program or a quiz program in the college, I would come back a little later, like 8 o'clock or something after dark, and I would walk from the KK Nagar bus terminus to my house, which was almost 1 mile. I never felt unsafe. I never felt that somebody was going to just pounce and molest me. My sister has, taken auto rickshaws because she used to work in Indusat Petroleum in Chennai. So she used to travel a lot actually. So she used to take auto rickshaws to come home in the dark, in the night, long, long distances, like from Paris Corner to KK Nagar. And I never remember my father or mother saying, oh my God, குழந்தை தனியா வருது ஆட்டோல, it is going to be unsafe, நான் போய் கூட்டின்னு வரேன். I've never heard that, right? um, so so of course my parents would say jakardeya va, be careful when you come, but they never were worried that we would get raped on the way or anything, right? But that has changed now. My niece who's growing up in Bangalore, who's in 12th standard, her parents are always worried about her. 12th standard girl. The father goes and drops her to school, and mother picks her up after school, right? And um, this is a very big institutional problem, Dr. Revati. Institutional problem holding women back. We have to do something about these institutions of societies in India that thinks that it is perfectly okay that a girl is unsafe, and we don't have to do anything about it. So what can institutions like yours do? I looked from your web page that you have like buses and transportation. That is very good. So to the extent you can provide transportation for your girls so that they're able to come safely to college, go back safely. I know you have hostels and they look very safe, which is very good. So the hostels should be kept safe, for them. And as far as possible, the girls' safety in the campus and outside the campus, if the institution takes responsibility, then that is very good. And I know that you're doing that, which is very nice. But as a country, we need to do more to ensure the safety of our girls. We cannot have our girls and their parents sitting around like, as my father used to say, "Vayithula neruppa kattindu," they say, right? Having fire in your stomach because you're so afraid of the safety of our girls. um, it wasn't like this when I was growing up. Something has deeply changed for the worse. My daughter is living alone in Columbus. Not even one day. I've been worried about her health, worried about many things about her. Obviously, I'm a mother, but I have never worried about her physical safety ever. That is how the institutional structure is, because I know that if she's in danger, she can call the police and they will come, and there is a legal system and she will immediately be protected. I know that. So that is important for us to change. And I know that institutions like yours, universities like yours, are doing a fantastic job, to begin this process of change. And you should keep up this good work.
Yes, Professor Densley, your question has been already answered by Madam. She has already said that both wife and husband, both mother and father has to take equal responsibility in bringing up the children. Leaving your person, passing on to the next question of Professor Mani. Madam, do you think you being in America has made you what you are in your ideology? If you had been here, you would have been different. That is a typical Indian women.
Oh my God, that is such a deep question, right? And so let me think about this. I think so. I came to the US when I was 25, and I think a lot of what I have as a personality, right, as a person, I think was already developed by then. By 25, I think that a lot of your personality is already shaped by that age. That doesn't mean you cannot change. Of course, you can change, but yes, I mean that personality, that first 25 years. So I feel that from uh, what do you call it? From just like my personality or my thought process, I feel I'm still very Indian. We always cook Indian food, South Indian food, that too. My children also, now my daughter living alone also cooks South Indian food. She did dance, classical dance. She got training in classical dance. We used to speak Tamil, but because my husband is not Tamilian, his family used to speak Hindi because I didn't know Kannada. So my children know both Tamil and Hindi. We watch Tamil movies. My children actually prefer to watch Tamil and Hindi movies compared to American movies. Imagine, they were born and raised and went in all their schooling here, but they still like Tamil and Hindi movies compared to American movies. So, we celebrate all the Indian festivals. So, yes, very Indian. What so? The question of whether I would have been different if I was in India is a very good question. I think some things I have probably changed here. As I said, my daughter living alone might have been like a big concern for me if I was there. That my daughter is in another city living alone, I would have been much more worried about her safety, perhaps. So that might have been a difference. I think I have become more. I don't know. You know, frankly speaking, success of Indian women has become even more important to me after coming to the US than when I was in India. If I'd been in India, then I would have wanted younger Indian women to be successful. But now I want it even more, because when I see the Indian women here, and I feel all the more that, okay, it is possible if there is a structural, things that are facilitating women to be successful. So here, for example, the Indian women in my town, almost 100% of them go to work, and they have children, and they manage their families, and they celebrate the functions, and they make Indian food at home. So they've been managing to do both, right? And so I know that it is possible for women to be successful if the societal facilities are there, not in terms of washing machine, etc. That is not the thing, but in terms of mindset, that we appreciate and we respect women going to work. That mindset, is, I think, very important. Now, in terms of, women, if I'd been in India, um, almost all my female cousins in India and their daughters, for those of them who have adult daughters, go to work. Literally everybody. My attai had started her own institution in Coimbatore, Vidya Vikasani schools. And if my attai was alive now, she would be in her mid 80s. So I'm just saying that, she was amazing career woman. Her daughter was the director of the National Institute of Mental Health in Hyderabad. She's retired now. She's early 60s. Her daughter is a PhD who is working in the National Institute of Health. Um, and that is just one family tree, I'm telling you. And all my female cousins and their children who are daughters who are in their 30s, etc., are all working in India. So, and when I interact with them, they are very, I mean, I think that I don't feel I have, my thought process is very different. In fact, I think honestly, they're more ambitious than my daughter, if I may. I think that my nieces, etc., who are, really they have very fierce ambition to be successful in their fields, right? In a very good way, of course. They're also very good girls, but I think they know the stakes are very high. They know that it is really important, and a lot of people are watching them to see whether they are going to fail or whether they are going to be successful. And because of that, I feel they are even more ambitious and career oriented. So so um, I think that that's the difference, but it's a good question. It is almost like a philosophy question that needs, like, deep thought. Are there any other questions? So if there aren't any other questions, I will say thank you very much. And I really appreciate this opportunity. And please feel free to email me if you have any questions. And I'll be very happy to hear from you. And I hope that one day, this COVID will be over and I will be able to visit your university. And I would love to do that and meet with all of you in person. And so I wish you a very good day and the best of luck, and please be in touch. Thank you very much. So, Professor Revati, I don't see you, so I'm going to just sign off now. And thank you again for this opportunity. And I'm just signing off. Thank you.
Uh, my dear participants, please fill up the feedback forms daily. And uh, the feedback forms, if you have filled and submitted with the correct mail ID, certainly you will get your certificates. There was some technical issue and there was an interruption. I'm sorry for it. And kindly fill up your feedback forms and submit it daily. And daily you will get your certificates. Thank you for your kind attention and meet you tomorrow.